We have people filtering in, so thank you for coming today. And we will get started in about 7 minutes. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in a few minutes here. Just waiting for everyone to come in. I had a full rack of 25 signups, so we will give everyone a few minutes to get on. I'd like to welcome you today to our webinar. We're going to be talking about the New York State Historic Newspapers website, but we're going to give everyone else a few more minutes to get on. We'll start a little after 10. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in chat, interrupt me as needed, and this should be a very educational and profitable hour. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here for our webinar. I'd like to welcome you to the New York State Historic Newspapers webinar that we're going to be doing today. My name is Eric Allen. I am the Regional Services Librarian at the Northern New York Library Network. We had a full 25 signed up today, and looks like we have 16 right now, so I'm just going to start, and people can filter in as needed. The presentation for this takes a little bit over 45 minutes. I put some time at the end for questioning and for that sort of thing. That being said, if you would like to have anything pointed out more specifically, or if you have any questions, please interrupt me in the middle of the presentation using the chat button. I'm going to do a quick poll to make sure everyone can hear me. And the thing about this is fairly new software for us. So I'd like to make sure that everything is working as needed. So if you can hear me, please let me know. I want to make sure that everyone can hear me before we get started. Looks like people can, which is excellent. All right, so we're just going to get started here. The New York State Historic Newspapers website is a collaborative effort for the Empire State Library Network, which used to be known as the NY3Rs Association. And we, as the Northern New York Library Network, are the spearheading organization behind this project. This project started in 2001 as the Northern New York Historic Newspapers. Back then, we only had about 100,000 pages. And a decent amount of users and items that we had in the database. Now that has expanded to almost 6 million pages over all 62 counties in New York State, consisting of papers from your small town papers in St. Lawrence and Clinton counties to your large papers in New York City and the boroughs. We have very much expanded this project from its humble beginnings to a statewide project. About 2 years ago, we made a major software switch from what was DT Search, which was state-of-the-art back in 2000, but became kind of outdated after you hit about 2 million pages, and it became about 2010, 2011. So we've currently gone with a software that is being used by the Library of Congress's Chronicling America project. This is an open source software that allows us to pretty much take the website and mold it to our needs, and we've done so. If you go to the Chronicling America website at the Library of Congress, you'll see that it looks significantly different from the way we do things. The back end is the same, but a lot of the stuff that you see, the front end, our user end, is a lot different. And we've really customized this user end to make it as easy as possible for people to use. And use it, people do. We get about 1.2 million hits per month. And the average user spends about 14 minutes on the site and visits about 25, 26 different pages. So we know that this website is being used. And we also know from our statistics that about 80 to 90% of the searches on this website are genealogical in nature. They're searching for names. They're searching for stuff that they are trying to figure out about their family history or that sort of thing. So a lot of what I teach today is going to be how to utilize the website in that manner. But I'm also going to be talking about how to browse through different websites, how to utilize the search functions to find various things that are important to you, not just names, but events or places or items. I'm also going to quickly go over what we call the tools page, which is a place for librarians, archivists, and other power users of the website, as it were, to get additional resources about how to use the website and various items. And I'm also going to cover such things as our monthly newsletter, which we put out monthly, and also various other minutiae about the website, including contributions and that sort of thing. So the first thing I'm going to talk about today, and we have a chat. Okay, excellent. First thing we're going to talk about today is the fact that this webinar is currently being recorded and will be available on our YouTube page immediately afterward. And what I will do is I will send a link, a webinar on our current webinar software will do so as well. But I will send a link to every person who signed up, because they're not all present, to provide you with the YouTube link. And will also be available on our tools page afterward, so that if you want to view this at a later date, you can do so at any time. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our landing page, or our front page. And as you can see, we have a nice big map of New York State, all of which are all colored in. There were times almost a year ago that it was not colored in, and we had counties that were not covered. Now they are all covered, which is nice. There's also an updates page here on the side that shows various updates that have happened to the website, titles that have either new or updated in recent time. And there's also a bar at the top here, and that bar is basically a quick way to navigate the website. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how to search the website. And there's really two ways to go about doing this. And the first and most obvious way is to click the search box. The search box brings up our search dialog. And that search dialog has three main areas. And as you can see, I've been searching this, so I'm just going to clear it out. My last presentation was talking about how to utilize this website in the Common Core environment in schools. So as you can see, I was talking about President McKinley getting shot and killed in Buffalo in 1901, and that was the search that I had up. It's a nice mention that it will save your search. Your last search will be saved, that you can modify this. But there are three sections to this search menu. The only required one is the one at the top, and that is your search string. This is where you put whatever you want to search for. So in this case, I'm going to put in Hurricane Gloria. And Hurricane Gloria was a hurricane that hit the Long Island area, lower New York State, and slammed into my home state of Connecticut back in 1985. To date myself, I was 4 at the time. So it's a little older, but it's always nice to talk about because I know I'm going to find a significant number of things about this. Directly under that search menu, or the search box, is a little menu here that you can open, and it will show you various items. You can check 5 words, 10 words of each other with the phrase, which search it uses in what's called an exact search. So if you used our old website and you put stuff in quotes, that's what this does. It provides an exact search. It also allows you to do any of the words, which is kind of like Google in that it gives you the widest net humanly possible, or all of the words. The default is 5 words of each other, and I like to stick with that as a basic starting point because it allows the search to find as many relevant things as possible without causing any sort of, without making your results have 20,000 results and you can't really deal with them, or coming up with nothing. I find the 5 words of each other to be a good starting page. Again, this is the only mandatory portion of this search box. You can safely ignore everything under this if you don't want, or you can use it if you want to narrow items down. Because Hurricane Gloria happened in 1985, I'm going to change my dates here, so I'm only searching in 1985. The Hurricane Gloria name was retired because the Weather Service does retire names after major storms. So there hasn't been a Hurricane Gloria since 1985. But I'm not sure if there was a Hurricane Gloria before 1985. So I'm going to make sure that my search reflects that I want this specific Hurricane Gloria in only 1985. You'll notice that I put it in both the from and to points, and that's because our from defaults to January 1st, and our to defaults to December 31st. And that will allow me to search just a single year. You can, of course, change those dates. So if I knew that Hurricane Gloria happened in September, I can search only September. This, however, is a double-edged sword. Newspapers, especially when you're getting pre-information age, so 1990 or earlier, the earlier you go, the longer it takes news to disseminate out to get to the newspapers and for the newspapers to publish. Daily newspapers were not a very common thing until the mid-70s. A lot of your earlier papers were weekly, most commonly, or sometimes even monthly in the smaller towns. So if you really shrink your date down, you have a significant chance of missing what you're looking for, because the newspaper may not have published that major news story or even a minor news story for a number of weeks or even months from when it happened. So it's always best to start wider and then slowly move your net in closer and closer, or thin it, thin your date range to find what you're looking for if you get too many results. Below the date section is your narrow by section. And this narrow by section is how you can take your search and specifically place it towards a certain area, either by newspaper, by county, or by city. One of the major problems we found is that in the old system, you could select all of these at once. So I could search for something in the city of Albany in Bronx County and say go. It would, of course, come up with 0 results because Albany isn't in Bronx County. But it wouldn't tell you that was your error. It would just say, I didn't find anything. And people would get frustrated and confused. So what we've done is anytime you click on a county or click on a city or a newspaper, it will reset the other 2 dialog boxes. And this allows the system, as you can see as it resets as I click across, it'll allow the dialog system or the search dialog to prevent you from making that error. And this is something that was suggested to us by users and that we have implemented. And that's something I just want to quickly note, is that because this newspaper product, our newspaper database, is open source, we have the ability to modify the code as much as we are able to make it a best product for our users. Which means if you have a suggestion, if you are using the site and you find something that you really want in the site, One of the major things that we're working on right now is to take the title page and make it sortable by the different table rows. This is something that's not doable right now, but a lot of users have said, hey, you should make this happen. So we're working on making it happen. If you find something that you want in the website, send us some feedback. There is a contact us place on the website where you can send us feedback and send us feature requests. And we really like it when our user base says, hey, this would be more useful, because a significant amount of this new page, if you go to the Library of Congress, it looks completely different. This new page was designed by our users saying, hey, this would be easier, or I think we should do this, or it would be really great if this happened. And this input from our user base allowed us to create this website and make it what it is today. So I encourage everyone to continue to do that, to send us messages and be like, hey, this would be great to have, and we really would use that. But back to what we're doing. So I'm not going to use the narrow by for our Hurricane Gloria search here. So I'm searching for Hurricane Gloria. It's within 5 words, and I'm only doing 1985. And I'm just going to say search. And it's going to give me a decent amount of results because we have a decent amount of newspapers that were affected by Hurricane Gloria. And there we go. So we get 129 results. As you can see, Good Riddance Gloria being our first major result. Our results here, you can see there are a lot of little red boxes. These red boxes indicate where your search terms appear on the page itself. Now, this initially sorts by relevance, and relevance is done by the database. It takes your search engine, or it takes your search parameters, it looks at what comes back, and it tries to sort it as the most relevant as humanly possible. It actually does a fairly decent job. But you can also change the sorting by date or by title if you so choose, if you want to see something. But I found the relevance search to be quite useful. One thing I do want to mention, you'll see there are 2 types. For example, right here, you'll see that there's one big Gloria box. But here, there are 2 boxes. Those 2 boxes, snugged right against each other, show that your search terms appear right next to each other in the text. So that is your commonality. That's how you got the hit back. Because our search engine is initially searching for these 2 terms within 5 words of each other, every page that exists on this result page will have those terms within 5 of each other somewhere on the page. But you'll see, especially this Press Republican, I'm going to pull it open here by clicking it. There's red everywhere. And that is actually a feature of the website that's specifically entered in so that you can more easily find things. And this is due to a journalistic convention that's existed since the early 30s by my research. So you'll notice that we have, all these Hurricane Gloria, and Hurricane Gloria. Now, it doesn't do this in this existence because it's a name, or because it's a hurricane. But if I've searched, for example, Mario Cuomo, the old governor, or Andrew Cuomo, the current governor, or any other name, the journalistic convention says that a person or a newspaper will mention a person's full name once, generally at the beginning of the article, or maybe even in the headline. And then for the rest of the articles in the paper, so there could be 3, 4 articles about this person, they will only use their last name. So say, for example, the Press Republican, which is this paper, has 4 articles about Governor Mario Cuomo on the front page. It will only say Governor Mario Cuomo in one of those articles, and it will just say Cuomo for the rest. So if you were doing an exact search for Mario Cuomo, it would only give you one of the 3 articles. This provides you with a showing by the red highlight of every single instance of any part of your search term. This can give you false results, like you'll find an article about a Mario that's not Mario Cuomo. But it does give you the ability to find articles that would not be found using an exact search otherwise. The old DT search, and you would enter in an exact search, it would only provide you articles that had that exact search in it. It wouldn't find those other 2 articles, or 4 or 5, that didn't mention Mario Cuomo's full name, or in this instance, Hurricane Gloria's full name. So to prevent that from happening again, once we switch to the graphical database, it shows every single instance so that you don't miss that article that only says his last name or the event's last name. So now that we found our article and we have, great stuff, there are 4 ways to take that article and take it off the website and utilize it in whatever means you'd like. The first way I do not recommend, but I'm going to cover it for completeness. And on the right side of the box here, you'll see text, PDF, PNG, and this nice little scissors icon. Text is the first one. I don't recommend this because of this reason. Text is the entire paper dumped into a giant wall of text. This is how the computer sees the page. This is included for completeness. It generally is not recommended for you to save it because the OCRing or the optical character recognition program that we utilize doesn't necessarily read the articles in the order they should be read. It skips columns, it reads down instead of right to left, and there are some things that it could miss. So you can copy paste this, but it's not going to be in the correct order. I just went silent. Uh-oh. Can people still hear me? Can everyone still hear me? I'm hoping everyone can still hear me here. So keep going. My software says I'm still talking, so I'm going to hope that's true. Okay, it looks like people can still hear me, which is good, so I'll continue. I hope that it can be fixed. Okay, good. Sound came back. Excellent. So the next thing you can do, and this is also a good recommendation, is the PDF download. This PDF download basically downloads a straight PDF page. The great thing about this, and what I find very useful, is it embeds the text that it reads into the page itself. So you can copy an article like this, highlight it, copy and paste it into a Word document, into a Google Doc, into a text file, and keep articles that way. It's also very useful in the classroom environment, so you can slap it on the web page in your lesson plan and anything else. It's also good for students if you want to take direct quotes out of the newspaper and you don't want to type the whole thing. So you can copy and paste these sections out of these PDFs. PDF does provide you with the whole page, but it, like all the other output options that we provide, gets rid of those red highlights. So you're not going to have red highlights everywhere to tell you what's going on. The next thing we have is PNG. PNG is an image. It basically downloads a nice image of the page that is, as you can see, very high DPI. I believe it's 400 DPI. And this allows you to download an entire image of the page. You can save that image, load it into your local program, your whatever image program you use, MS Paint or GIMP or Photoshop, and you can modify that image as needed, cut out portions, just save the whole thing, host on a web page, that sort of thing for your what you're doing. And the last thing is my favorite option. That's this little scissors icon. You'll notice this red box that's kind of sitting around this. That shows where our view is on the page. So if I zoom into this article right here, you'll notice that red box shrinks. So I'm going to get a good portion where the red box has my entire article in it. And then I'm going to click the scissors. And the scissors is going to cut out that red portion. It's going to pull that apart, and it's going to provide me a page that gives me an image. As you can see, it's a nice little image I can save as. This section of the paper that I cut out provides the bibliographical information, where it came from, Professional Publican, the September 28th, 1985 on page 1. Tells you who did it. This is our paper. If you open a Syracuse University paper or a paper by SUNY Oswego or a paper provided by SUNY Potsdam, whoever it's provided by, it'll say it right there. And then it will give you this persistent link. The great thing about this software that I found is that every single thing you do, from your searches to your results page to your pages that you're looking at to browsing, we use a standardized URL format. That means that you can bookmark anything you do on this website. And when you bring back to that bookmark, it will bring you back to where you left off. So if you're doing a search, you can copy and paste that search. You can bookmark that search, and it will always do that search. And it will actually refresh the search. So if we have something new, it will pop up in the search as well. If you want to look at a page, so for example, you want to look at this page, this persistent link is at the bottom, and it's also this link at the top. Oops. This link at the top here. So if you bookmark this link up top, it'll keep the red things because it keeps your search. But if you bookmark that link at the bottom, it will always bring you back to this page, this specific page of this specific paper. And that allows you to utilize bookmarks or Google Docs or a note-taking program and copy these links en masse, and it's another way to save your items. One last note about saving these items is we do not limit how much you can download each day. So if you're doing a research project and you want to download 30 pages of papers for your research project, that's fully allowed. All of the papers that we have on this website, we have received copyright permission from the publishers of these papers. And that allows you as the user to download these papers and utilize them for any fair use purpose, and that includes personal research, educational research, or for educational use, such as in a classroom, without needing to receive additional copyright permission. And that allows people to utilize the site without worrying about violating copyright laws, which is a big deal right now. So those are all the ways you can save the different articles. A few last notes that I want to do about this when you're viewing a page. You'll notice that I zoomed in and out really quickly. That was utilized using the scroll button on my mouse. If you are using a tablet or if you're using a laptop and you use your little two-finger swipe up down or the zoom where you take your fingers and you pinch them or you spread them apart, that also works for this site as well. To mention that this website is fully mobile responsive, which means if you're viewing this website on a tablet or a mobile phone, it should work. However, due to how the website is designed and how much you have to zoom into the papers, I don't recommend browsing this website on anything smaller than an iPad, mainly just because it's really hard to read, trying to zoom in that much and you're trying to move everything around. It works, it's just awkward. So I highly recommend the smallest thing you do, iPad mini. I use the iPad mini at work to present this sometimes, and it works perfectly fine with this website on my 7-inch screen. You'll notice I have a few buttons here. I have a little full screen button that pops it all the way open. I have this home button, which will shrink the page back to so you can see the whole thing. And then there's manual zoom in and zoom out functions that you can use without using the scroll or the finger swipes. You'll also notice that there's a little image drop down here that says 1 of 35. That allows you to, there are 35 pages in this newspaper issue. If you'd like to quickly move to another page, you can utilize that. You can also click the next page button, which kind of moves it over. And there's also the issues. Issue gives you to the next either forward or backwards issue. In the Press Republican, it's daily. In some others, it's weekly. So if you want to see how it's covered in the next issue, you just hit this button right here, and it brings you to the first page of the next issue paper. And as you can see, it talks nothing about Gloria and talks about Soviet proposals and Dannemora drug labs and hostages can hold a news conference. So, and I can hop right back to the previous issue. So that's how you can navigate through all of these. Going back to search, you'll mention that I talked about how it saves my search, and it does. If you are browsing in such a way that your cache is saved, so if you're using incognito mode or private mode, this doesn't work. But if your computer or if your browser is browsing normally, it will save in your local cache, which means I don't see it, but it's saved on your hard drive or your local computer. It saves your latest search which means that the latest search for this, if I don't find what I'm looking for, I can pop this open and either change my search strings, or I can change my date, or try to narrow by certain counties. So say I just want where is a county in Long Island? Let's see. Suffolk County. We're going to just say, show me Suffolk counties. And I don't have anything that talks about Hurricane Gloria in Suffolk County. So I'm going to try Albany County. And I can keep changing these searches quickly by hitting the search button, pulling up my search, clicking on a few things, changing it, and then immediately throwing it out. And that's a way to, if you're not finding what you're looking for, which is especially true with names, if you're not finding what you're looking for, to quickly do that. The next thing I want to talk about is, instead of going straight to the search menu here, if you know where you're going to be. So say I'm going to search for Mario Cuomo, but I want to know what people are saying about Mario Cuomo in Clinton County. I can click on Clinton County, and it brings me to the Clinton County page. As you can see, my search was saved even here too. So the Clinton County page, you'll notice that the search dialog is different. This search dialog doesn't have a narrow to function because it's automatically narrowing your search to only the county you've clicked on. And this is a quick way to get to searching only a certain area. If you search a certain area on a regular basis, bookmark this page. So when you go to the newspaper's website, quickly and automatically brings you to the county you're looking for. It also shows on the right-hand side all the newspaper titles that we have in that county. Some have a large amount, some have not very much at all. So the thing is, you can utilize this site to jump off two functions. You can jump off your search from here, or you can jump off your browsing from here. And we will be talking about browsing after we finish the searching functions. But you can click on any of these titles, and it will bring you to the browse functionality of that title. So if I wanted to search for Mario Cuomo here, I type in Mario and Cuomo. I'm only gonna, we'll do 1986, so I don't get 8 billion articles about him. I hit go, and it's going to do a search just for Mario Cuomo, just for 1986. And as you can see, because he was the governor of New York, I have 522 results for that 1 year in one county. And here's a wonderful example of full name being used, and then only the last name being used for the rest of the article. If there was another article in this page, it would only say his last name. So that's why you have all the breadcrumbs, as we call them, the breadcrumb little items. That's why those exist. Are there any questions about search functionality or anything else before we move on to browsing? There's a little lag in this, so I'm going to give people a little chance to reply before I move on to the browsing function. So if you have any questions about searching, just type them in chat, raise your hand, and we can see if we can get those answered right quick. And it looks like we don't have any questions. If there are, you can easily interrupt me, and I have no problem answering them afterward. So we're going to move on to how to browse. And as I mentioned before, there's two ways to do that. The first is going to your county page and clicking on a paper you want to do. And the second is by clicking on your titles page. The titles page will show you all 494 current titles that we own, and it will show them in alphabetical order. And as you can see, it takes a little bit to load. This view shows you every single item or every single title that we currently have and contains some interesting information about them. So you can see on the left you have the list of newspapers that I'm just going to take a look at. the Fifth Freedom, the top newspaper here. You can see that it says Fifth Freedom, Buffalo, New York, 1971 to 1980 question mark. This comes from the MARC record. The city that is shown is not the city that the newspaper is published in. It is the city of which we call the coverage area, or the city of coverage. And this is where the newspaper identifies itself as its home coverage base. So for example, the Fifth Freedom is out of Buffalo. The Adirondack Daily Enterprise is a Saranac Lake paper. It's where it's focused on. The Adirondack News is St. Regis Falls paper. And the date next to it is the dates that the newspaper reports that it has published. It is not the range that we have, just the range that the newspaper said it's publishing from. The next is browse issues, and we will go over that. The next side is number of issues. This is not number of pages. This is number of actual papers that we have. So for example, the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, you can see has a very big number, 15,717. We have 15,717 issues of that paper on our website. Now, the reason for this, is that the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, we are the official archive for that paper. So if you go to the Adirondack Daily Enterprise's website and you click on archive, it brings you to our website, to the Adirondack Daily Enterprise's page on our website. Those next two numbers, earliest and latest issue, is literally the earliest and the latest issue that we have for that paper. It does not represent a range that we have. So for example, for the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, it says 1895, February 21st to 2007, December 29th. We do not have every single paper between those two sections. Now, the reasoning for that is, we get our papers from various organizations. We get them from colleges, we get them from the New York State Library, from various public libraries, historical societies, individual collectors. And these people sometimes, or these people or organizations, sometimes don't have the entire paper. Sometimes they only have a year, or when you look at the run, there are, you actually look at the microfilm and it will say issues missing, or year missing, or month missing. Because when they took those papers and they laid them out and they started microfilming them, they found that some papers were too damaged or gone or some other way. So there are items that we are missing within those ranges. The best way to find this out is to do browse issue. So if you click on this little calendar, it brings you to the browse issue page for that paper. So as you can see, you have a nice little giant yearly calendar here. And if you click on the issues for, it brings down a giant year dropdown. So I'm going to click on 2000, and it's going to refresh the page for the year 2000. Every single hyperlinked day is a day that an issue has been published and that we have on our website. So if I click, today is June 9th, if I click June 9th, it's going to pull up June 9th of 2000, which happened to be a Friday on that day too. So you have all these, you can take a look at it, you can click in it and browse it and do everything you can normally. And you can just go back and you can continue to browse. Now, as you can see up here, there's two things that are interesting. One is show all front pages. I am not going to click this for the Adirondack Daily Enterprise because it will try to load 15,717 front pages, and I don't want to wait for that. But if you have a paper where it's only 100 issues or it's only 50 issues or whatever, you can click on those and it will show you page 1 of every single paper that we own. The next is this little thing up here, the About function. This About page is the title page for this paper. So if you're anywhere in the website and you click on a title of the paper, either in the county section or in the results section or any other place, the titles area, it will bring you to this page. This page provides you everything you'd ever want to know about this specific newspaper, in this case, the Adirondack Daily Enterprise. You can see it gives you the title, and it gives you an alternative title. Some newspapers have alternative titles. In this case, the Adirondack Yearly Empty Prize was the joke paper that they published on the dates of the Saranac Lake Ice Festival. Some papers had alternative titles for different sections. If a paper had one version of the paper they had for one city and they had another version for another city, they would be listing that under alternative titles. The place of publication is where it's published. So if you have a newspaper that's published in a different area than its geographic coverage, that will be listed here. An example of that is the North Country Catholic. The North Country Catholic is a religious newspaper that's its geographic coverage is Ogdensburg, New York. Its place of publication is somewhere in Indiana. I don't remember exactly what city. So that's why we sort things by geographic coverage, or we'd have a random Indiana paper in our New York's database. Other things are listed are publisher, the dates of publication, a description, the frequency, so if it's daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, what language it's in. Our papers are not only English, we have Italian papers, we have German papers, and I think that's it right now. The German papers are from Syracuse University. I don't remember who gave us the Italian papers, but we do have papers in other languages. You can notice on the bottom is notes. So you can see issues for the Winter Carnival are called Adirondack Yearly Empty Prize. There are some papers that change titles or change names, change hands. If we know that they're linked, they'll be listed under the notes section of preceding and subsequent papers. So there was a paper that we were scanning that was in Herkimer County, and there were 5 papers in this town. And we were scanning all these papers, and suddenly they all stopped. We're like, oh, we must be missing these, okay. 2 weeks later, one paper started publishing again, but it published under all 5 names. And over the next 2 weeks, because it was a daily paper, it changed its name 6 times. Excuse me. The reasoning for this is that right the day after those all 5 papers published for their last time, the town burned to the ground. The only paper that survived was the one paper that published 2 weeks later. And all 5 papers were folded into it. It changed titles a bunch of times and then continued on as a new paper. The reason we provide all that information is because if you're searching for something and the paper's name changes, the Plattsburgh Press Republican is a wonderful example of this. In its lifetime of over 175 years, it has changed titles 4 times. So we will provide you with all 4 of those titles in hyperlinks so that you can see the different papers that were covered that it evolved in over the years. And this allows you to make sure that you're finding everything you're looking for. The last thing, we have a MARC record for those of the library inclination. You can look at the base MARC record that we have for this file. Every single one of our papers has a MARC record. Some are better than others, but every single one has a MARC record. And the last link that's up here is libraries that have it. This is not our webpage. This links to NYSED's website. NYSED every year or so takes stock of what papers are in New York City and where they are in physical format. So if you want to see this paper in physical format, you can click that link and it will load a web page that lists every single newspaper in New York State and where New York thinks these physical papers are. The bad thing about this website is they put every single thing on one page. So it literally takes 5 minutes to load because it's hundreds of thousands of lines of text. You can click this page, but I recommend opening it in another tab and letting it load before you even look at it because it takes, as I said, a significant amount of time to load. But if you want to see the physical paper for some reason, that website will tell you where it is. The last thing I want to mention about this title information page is on the right-hand side, you'll notice I have a few buttons. One is calendar view, and that's what I showed you earlier. That's how to browse by calendar. Another one is all front pages, self-explanatory. First issue and last issue, which will show you the first and last issue. And search this title. What search this title does, and this was another recommended item, is it brings up your search box with the title automatically filled in a narrow by function. And this allows you to quickly search the title without scrolling through the newspaper section with all 500 titles on it, trying to find the title you want to click. And that makes it a lot easier. So that pretty much wraps up how to use the website both in searching and browsing. But there's a few more things I want to cover before I let you go today, and I have a few minutes to cover them. And the first is our help page. I've talked about a lot in the past 45 minutes, and there are studies that show that only about 20% of it is remembered. So if you remember anything, remember this: the help page talks about everything that I've talked about today. We also do video podcasts. So if you click on a video podcast, you can listen to my voice, talking about how to do different things on a web page. And I've made these short videos in less than 3-minute chunks so that if you want to show a patron or talk about other things, you can just give them this link and they can sit down and they can talk about it or view it and look at it and see what's going on there. The other thing is we have a frequently asked questions section, and this allows you to kind of take a look at and answer those frequently asked questions, like how do I suggest titles be added, or where can I see or get copies of the original newspapers, and other stuff that I have talked about today. And the most important part is this little contact page up on the upper left. This allows you to talk to me. As I said earlier, this is very important that we receive feedback from the community. There's 5.7 million pages on this. If there's a page that's upside down or out of order, or it's all black or all white or broken in some way, shape, or form, there's no possible way that we can see everything. We quality control as best as humanly possible. But with 6 million pages up there, we're going to miss something. So if you see something, there's a little subject you can select, I'd like to report a problem, and you can tell us, hey, this website or this, this page is upside down, it's cut off, it's wrong, it's not even the right paper, it's the wrong date, all these other items that we can fix, but we need to know there's a problem first. So I highly recommend, if you find something wrong, tell us so we can fix it. The other part of this is a section called I Need Help. And this gives you a nice little free-form section to say, hey, I'm trying to do this and I can't do it, or various other things. This contact us page goes right to us. It doesn't go to some, call center. It's not outsourced out. It literally comes to our email here at Northern New York Library Network. If you're asking us to do a reference question, I can't guarantee it will be done quickly. There's only 4 of us here, and we work as hard as we can. So we'll respond to your email within, a reasonable amount of time, a few business days at worst. And we'll be like, yes, we've received it. We know what we're doing, but I can't, there will be times where I can't do your search for you. I'll gladly point you in the right direction, maybe offer some search tips, but we won't be able to help you actually find anything or do any reference questions. I'd love to. I love doing reference, but it's just the time constraint, as it were. But the other thing that can we help you with this function, this is where you want to put in if you have a feature request, or if you found something on the website you think could be improved. This is the section you enter it into. This is where you tell us, I want to be able to sort by this, or I think this would be a great idea for the website. And that's something I would highly recommend. The next section here is to subscribe to our newsletter. We put out a monthly newsletter. I should say I put out a monthly newsletter. This subscription goes to a mailing list that only I have control of. I don't give it to anyone, and the only mail you will ever receive off it is our monthly newsletter. It's not shared with anything else and will not be given to anyone else ever. So you can rest assured that your privacy is very much protected if you subscribe to our newspapers, because I hate getting random emails from people I don't know as well. So I'm not going to give yours away to anyone else. And the last thing I want to talk about today is our tools page. This tools page is mainly directed to members of the library and educational communities who use the webpage with patrons and in the educational or library and archival environments. And this can be accessed by, instead of putting www on the front of nyshistoricnewspapers.org, you put tools. And it gives you this website. And as you can see, this website contains various things that make it useful. It contains a picture of our Meckel. And I change this picture on a fairly regular basis. That is Brenna. She is our technician. She scanned last year 874,000 newspaper pages using that machine right there. We added about 1.7 million to the website last year. So she scanned half of them herself. You know, it's people like her that really help this website be what it is. So as you can see, there are various items on the tools page, including statistics if you really care who looks at what paper and how many people look at those papers. There's instructional videos. These are also on the help page. A newsletter archive, so if you want to see any of our past newsletters from February 2015 when I started putting them out. Upcoming and recorded classes. When this class is finished recording, I will place its link on the recorded classes section. And there's also PowerPoints and handouts. I have these for completeness sake. I was in the military for 8 years, so I have suffered death by PowerPoint more times than I can think of. So I try not to kill people in the same way. So even though I have a PowerPoint for this, I don't use it. But if you want to take a look at it, it's right there. And you can take a look at the handouts that I would normally give out in a presentation that was given locally. You can look at the PowerPoint presentation. We have bookmarks, and you can look at the front and back if you want to print out your own. And there's also, you know, how to cite. And this is an important section, this little how to cite. It's a nice little Google document, and it tells you the proper way to cite information from our website. If you're doing it for a research paper, or if you're doing it for a book that you're writing or something else, this tells you how to cite something on our website properly. And that pretty much covers everything I have for this webinar. I will stay on for a few more minutes if there are any extra questions and if you want to chat. Please feel free to contact me or contact the network if you have any questions using the Contact Us section of the website, and we will be glad to help you. But again, I thank you for coming today. I hope that you've learned how to utilize this website in a better manner and that you can find what you're looking for in our 6 million newspaper pages. Again, thank you for coming. Yes, on a lot of the titles that have missing pages, we are always work to try to make everything as complete as possible. If you know of a place that has pages we're missing, have them contact us through the About section of our page, or and we always are continually working to make our databases as complete as possible. It's just tough. There are some papers, the publisher burned down, or we lost all the microfilm, like there's so many different ways that you can lose old papers. We hope to find some. That'd be great, but we'll see what we'll have to keep trying. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope to see you all next time.